Yo, turn the monitors up. I can't hear shit.
I want to grab 2 things of paint out of my room.
Tell me what you want. I'm just gonna get them for you.
There should be, good luck, a tub of blue paint and a squeezy thing of goldish paint. And then like a tall squeezy thing of gold.
Is that more like the tub of blue you're looking for?
Yeah, that's a better tub of blue.
This one?
Yeah, number 2 blue. Number 2 blue all the way.
Squeezy thing of yellow. Like
yeah.
Holbein yellow?
No, like it's like a tall gold faux finish paint. Like a...
Oh, gotcha.
Bigger than your dick size bottle.
He brings the gallon of paint out.
I trust you.
Good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome.
So, fuck yeah, man. Welcome to the Golden Hour.
Welcome, thank you. Welcome to the Green Door.
Thank you. This place is sick. It's inspiring. There's always something happening here. And it's always good vibes and very welcoming, too.
Yeah, you know, it's usually doors open, wide arms open. You know, there's only one rule at the Green Door Studio. It's don't be an asshole. So...
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody break that rule. I'm sure it's happened before. I mean, we all break that rule, but...
Yeah, you know, from time to time. Nobody's perfect, but...
But yeah, you are an artist.
Indeed.
And you're a multifaceted personality that gets people hype on events and creativity. I met you through... friends that were making music back in the early aughts, maybe around 2000. It's probably the year 2000.
Yeah,
year 2000.
yeah. I'm gonna guess, man. That was like right around there, 2000, 2001. I moved here in '98. I didn't know anybody. You know,
yeah.
When I first got here.
You corrected that pretty well. pretty quickly.
Yeah, I got corrected that swiftly.
Yeah, you started emceeing all these events and just being the guy that like glued all types of hip hop together, like the elements, you know, like graffiti crew. So, yeah, I guess let's start in the beginning. I met you when you were doing this liquid lounge thing at...
Yep.
So tell me about that. How did that even start?
I mean, so Liquid Energy started for me because I really wanted to get into bartending, which was not really like it was more like a means to an end. I just wanted to get my feet in the door in venues and in spaces like that. And a dear friend of mine, Dan Lewin, he took over the Liquid Energy bar vibe. Like he was, you know, it was a juice bar by day, juice and soup, and then at night they would, you know, throw open the curtains, and it was like, wow, we had all this crazy stuff we could make drinks with. So I just kind of came along for the ride with him, and he was also trying to book entertainment, and you know, I had friends like sort of like I had very surface level friends, but I was like, I like what these people are doing and what these people are doing, and open mics seemed like a cool vibe, and so I started playing music there with a buddy of mine who played guitar. It was like back then, for some reason, the guitar was more like what was like the sound of a guitar more than the sound of a beat. The sound of just like pure instrumental type beats was what was calling to me. I was, you know, still like...
And Liquid Energy was right on Church Street, so lots of pedestrian, lots of, you know, no cars allowed, only people.
Right,
so.
Plenty of action available to you, you know? And so Dan asked me to start putting together a night. And it was like, I would, you know, I'd be like this guy with the guitar and this, you know, and then like, what else could we do? Like, oh, let me get my homie who's a DJ. And the first couple of DJs, it was like Kanga, Zach Johnson, and
CJ.
Transplant, CJ.
Hell yeah.
Like the three of them were like and Create. All four of them were like the four people in the town that I knew that had the equipment and were willing to come and just sort of like play whatever, you know? And then it's sort of, because all of them were involved in hip hop, it just kind of evolved, you know? It was like, I was interested in MCing. I was by no means a good MC. I just was like doing it. I was down to rap. I mostly was like kicking other people's raps. It was kind of whack, actually, you know? Like, sort of like I was like doing cover songs of other rappers like Farside and Atmosphere and shit like that, like, you know,
I guess
current
maybe a
modern
couple
rappers,
years.
but
It didn't feel like that at the time. It just seemed like you were, you know, Supernatural.
Yeah.
How he does these like perfectly like succinct freestyles that kind of move the literally like MCing, like move the event along, like introducing people and like in the next act is you know, with the tactics, like that kind of stuff, you know. That's what it felt like, and it was pretty chill. I
wasn't being too corny for too long, you know, so that evolved into it was like the Lyricist Lounge, the Liquid Lounge. It was
that was big at the time, the Lyricist Lounge.
Yeah, totally.
When MTV had music.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, well, fuck it. Like, there's enough MCs in town. People started coming through, wanted to kick ciphers, and we just started that thing. And that Liquid Energy open mic, I feel like really united the city in a bunch of ways. Like, it was a bunch of, there was like, what were they, like the Rough Riders crew? It was obviously not DMX's Rough Riders, but like
there's Rude Dogs.
The Rude Dogs, yes, that was it. Yep.
My boy Trey, Mizzy Guns.
Yep.
Who else? Oh, Dakota. Fuck yeah, Dakota.
Right.
I mean, like.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Like, yeah. I mean, that's history right there.
Yeah, you know, and then there was like the whole scene that was popping off at the Red Square. With like Fatty B and Conflict and Terrell and The Voice and obviously A-Dog, rest in peace to A-Dog. You know, like there was all this hip hop that was happening.
Just down the street.
And we were like these young underground hungry kids who just wanted to be able to do something.
Yeah.
You know? And there were so many people that got like, you know, like, I mean, ZJ, every time I see that kid, what up, Z? He's always like, yo, that was my first DJing gig ever.
Dude,
that was you put me in front of people with turntables.
He got a career, you know.
I know. He's killing
like,
it.
Straight up.
He's straight up killing it.
Yep.
You know, and like so it was just this place where we all like met up and MCs and ciphers started popping off, and you know, then we would like book little sets and all of that, and then unfortunately Liquid Energy got closed down. It was like some shiesty ass shit that happened, and some dude, you know, embezzled a bunch of money or whatever. Like,
they're like, oh damn, this shit's popping off. You know?
Like
I need some more rent.
Yeah, like, you know, like what is prone to happen, and that shut down, and then we like.
But it was crazy though. It like transformed overnight, is what it felt like. It was like the health smoothie place that is like downtown, and then all of a sudden like. The sun goes down and it's like the club.
Yeah, it was
like
poppin'.
50 MCs. Like
yeah,
it was like
it was popping.
People were coming from other clubs to like owners were coming to check it out and be like, taking notes and shit. You know?
Yeah, you know, and I mean, and then we threw that festival in Battery Park, right? Presenting, yeah. Yep. You know, which was this sort of like. There are a bunch of people doing shit in this, and like Battery Park at the time, no one had been using it for anything other than like band concerts and shit. We were like, no, we're gonna pop.
Wait, the permit's only like what, $50 or something?
Yeah, and we were like, okay, cool, we'll take it for a day. They messed with us about our like sound or whatever, but we worked it all out, and we had an amazing day and put like 250 people in a park. And I feel like, you know, it was like Manifest next to me was starting to play music. You and what did he call himself back then? Mischief and Sender.
Yeah.
You know, who became, you know, whatever. He's had a bunch of names since then. Source Unknown, Travis
Scope.
and Luke. Yeah, you know, and Shape. You know, like all of those cats were like, we were all involved. Everybody was involved, and it was
pushing each other and stuff. And
like trying to make something happen. Yeah. Right. Like really just trying to make something happen. Trying to make space for ourselves. To make art in and to like create in, and you know, and to be accepted sort of as part of the scene, but also
get your hours in, pay your dues, and like, you know.
Yeah, we were also like, we don't really need the scene. Like we're building our own shit, you know.
Yeah, I used to have house parties back then.
Right.
And then it turned into like how about let's just go down to like The Liquid Lounge.
Right.
Yeah, go in the crew. And
It'll probably be cool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and then when Liquid Energy shut down, then it was like we went down to Hectors, right? Down in the basement.
That was chill. That was chill. Yeah.
It's been a number of things since then. It's now Orlando's. We went to the Monkey House. Me and Dan started bartending at the Monkey House. And I was immediately like, I want to create the same space that we had there for, like, we were doing something, it was good. And we didn't have the energy or like the money or any of that shit for it. So like I was like literally, you know, I would show up with, it wasn't an MPC, but it was kind of like an MPC, and I would like bang out beats from behind the bar while I was bartending. And Transplant would show up and he would DJ, and there, you know, it was like a half a dozen MCs would show up.
Yeah, I remember the Loyalists would show up and just fucking kill it.
Yeah.
Lyric and Phantom.
Yep.
Those dudes were hot.
You know? And that's like, I mean, essentially that's what then later became Third Thursdays. You know, that energy is what became Third Thursdays, and, you know, and created that space for us to keep hosting. I mean, I was gone for a while, and Humble and Transplant kept Third Thursdays alive at the Monkey House for years, while I was living out in the Northeast Kingdom trying to do other things with my life, you know. And but you know,
but still, man, you're like a cornerstone, you know, like Keystone, Cornerstone, one of those.
I mean,
stones.
yeah, probably sometimes the Keystone, I guess. But you know, it's like so that whole thing, the whole Liquid Energy vibe moved, right? We had it at Hectors. Hectors shut down. That was kind of when, like, okay, it became an event. And I mean, dude, it was so easy, right? It was like all of a sudden you're hosting this event, and it's just something different than the Higher Ground, the Red Square, the places that hip hop was happening in the city, and we were just like something different. So when, like, you know, Chesky and Soul wanted to roll through the city back in the day, and they had like not another venue to get into, they would somehow end up in our lap.
Yeah.
And we would just be like hosting an event that was way out of our league. Like all of a sudden we're like hosting Anticon rappers and shit, like, you know, and like just do, you know, because like the Higher Ground wasn't
Touchstone,
really
there's
booking
another
that
stone
stuff.
that you were. It's the touchstone, you know. Like the antenna, kind of, you know, like there's all this energy, like frequencies, like floating around in the atmosphere. It's just like raise the antenna, and it's all like.
It's gonna come. Yeah, it's gonna come back around, right?
Yeah,
it's gonna come back around.
It's just what is there, and then the thing that's the most appropriate for, you know, people who just spitting rhymes and rocking beats. Like, this is where they're gonna show up, you know?
Yeah, you know. Yeah, where are they gonna show up? And, you know, and especially, you know, it's always been like a certain vibe. It's like a little different. This is not the hip hop you were expecting necessarily if you went to a hip hop show and we're just going to a hip hop show. It's not, you know, it was never one piece of the puzzle that, I don't know, it's hard to describe. Like, we were always just kind of doing some different shit. Mm-hmm. It was, you know, it was like...
That's what made it seem more accessible, too. Like,
yeah.
Oh, maybe, like, it'd be cool to, like, watch it, you know? Like,
yeah, so many MCs
and,
would, like, give
and,
it their first shot on the stage
Yeah.
at those events, you know, whether it was Third Thursday or Liquid Energy back in the day. You know, it was like, so many people would just, like, jump and take a chance because... we did make it mad accessible. We weren't judging you. You're not gonna do your thing and then one of us is gonna diss you on the next record. It's like, that's not how it goes. Right. That's not how we're vibing, you know. It was always about G-fam, like that vibe, you know, like we're all in it together. Let's build together.
It's
let's
like
get it together.
Family, you know?
Yeah, let's get it, you know.
So what were you doing with art back then?
Really, that was like the one point in my life where I wasn't making art at all. I was doing digital art, like making flyers for the events and shit like that, and sometimes using the tools with my hands that I knew how to use. But I wasn't making art at all. I think MCing.
You had enough creative outlet to...
it was... I mean,
it was occupying your...
I had been an artist and a painter my whole life, and I went to college for, you know, drawing and painting. That's what I was supposed to do, and art school just straight up fucking wore me out. it took all of that energy from me, and I had nothing left when I left art school, and I moved to Vermont, and it was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be like a rapper and a promoter and just like do something else, just engage in something else. It wasn't even really a conscious decision, I wouldn't say, but it was in that I really just like abandoned visual arts for a long time. Just didn't have it. It wasn't there,
Well, let's exercise a different muscle.
Yeah, I want to try out some different shit. I want to sort of like see who I can be in this other world and how I can move around. I had gotten arrested for painting graffiti back in Philly when I was in college, and I like really didn't want to go through that shit again. It cost me a lot of money and enough time of my life.
Had to change your name and all that shit.
I actually did not change my name. I took my name back when I came to Vermont, but it was like,
drive 500 miles and arrest me now.
no, I was Eskae, the rapper. I was Eskae, the promoter. I was just like Eskae, the name in the scene, but I wasn't tagging on shit, and I wasn't writing graffiti. I wasn't doing any of that.
Can't touch me.
Visual arts just like fell away for a really long time, man.
And how did it come back?
It came back like a ton of bricks, honestly. Like it just like hit me in the back of the head one day.
Need to pay.
Yeah, I was just like I mean, the way I described the moment, it was much more of like, holy shit, I haven't made a painting in fucking 10 years. Like I haven't done this thing. I haven't flexed that muscle in so long. And I started making little paintings because it was like all that was accessible to me. It was like 10 by 10s and 12 by 12, just like little shit. I would just like pick something up and start, I was like digging around in my basement, finding what supplies I still had left from art school. Stuff I had been traveling around with for a decade but hadn't used. Dried out acrylics and shit like that. I'm like trying to make things work. 10 by 10, 12 by 12, and then I was like starting to assemble paintings, larger paintings, out of piles of these little canvases, and like, okay, now I can go this big. Now I can move around a little bit, and eventually it was, I had just moved back to Burlington after my stint in St. J, which maybe we still need to come back to that at some point, but like, I had just moved back to Burlington, and I was living in this tiny little apartment with Mary Beth and the girls, and I would ride my bike with a trailer behind me with like all of my paints in these 2 plastic bins and all of this pile of canvases. I'd go over to my homie Vid's house and paint in his basement for like the whole night. And then strap it all back on and ride home with it. Pile it back up. Birdman style, 100%. 100%.
You got a train of wagons behind your bike.
I was like a strange
art supplies.
I was like a strange artsy Birdman for a minute.
It's all just like eccentric self-expression.
But that was so that I could take 3 or 4 large canvases and work on them in a space big enough to look at them all at the same time. Not large, but like bigger than 12 by 12 canvases. And it wasn't long before spray paint was like, why would I not be using spray paint right now? What I want to do is paint big. I want to paint large. I want to go back, and like I started making bigger paintings, and eventually really like one of the big jump offs was the wall to canvas competition. It was the first wall to canvas at Magic Hat, and I entered as like a recovering graffiti writer, not.
I remember those now. Yeah, those were
they were cool.
A big deal.
It was a cool event.
That was a good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool event.
It's
that they
crazy
did
how
annually.
Magic Hat, like their event manager or whatever, production coordinator or whatever they call it, like can actually spark something that turns into like, can set somebody's path in life. It's
it
crazy.
Really so. Yeah, that first one, man, it was like it came out of nowhere. They're throwing this competition. I'm not really painting graffiti, but they're billing it as a graffiti competition, but they're not billing it as a graffiti competition. They're making it sound like it's like graffiti writers who also know how to work on a canvas. It's live art, right? It was wall to canvas.
Yeah.
You're a graffiti writer, you want to do that. And I was like,
it's a solid concept.
I was like, okay, perfect. Like I haven't really painted graffiti in a long time, but I showed up mostly with spray paint because I was like, it's going to be a big canvas. I got to paint it fast. This is going to be perfect. Spray paint had a couple of little stencil-y moves with me and a couple of things. But that's where I met Hacks, Capes, Ender, like all these other graffiti writers. I had no connection to that part of the scene here in Vermont prior to that, other than like my homie Wisdom, who had tried to get me to paint a couple of times, and I just kind of like didn't have it in me. But now all of a sudden it was in me, right? And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this event. And I meet these other cats, and they're like people like me doing what I'm doing. And like, you know, we were like the only ones there who all had spray paint. So we like,
you took it literal.
yeah, we're like, it's wall to canvas. Like, this is how,
canvas. Like,
this is how we're doing it.
What's the children's story character like?
Oh, Amelia Bedelia?
Amelia Bedelia.
That we were talking about.
It's gotta
earlier.
be walled canvas. Only designs that I made for a wall with spray paint.
Yeah, then I'm gonna put it on a canvas.
Literal.
Nice way to
mindset.
bring that back around. The Amelia Bedelia reference. Yeah, exactly. Like, the thing is to do it, you know? So we showed up, all of us had spray cans, kind of got to know those guys, and that's basically like the jump off point of me choosing to get an art studio, which was right over here on the other side of these walls, you know? Did that solo on my own when Arts Riot first opened up. Arts Riot was not originally a venue like it is now. It was just like a studio space with some homies in it. They were trying to figure out what to do. They were going to do events. They were going to have studio space. They had a studio space that had the exhaust fan in it, like from Karen's auto body.
Oh, wow.
It was like you could paint a car in the room.
Damn, the helicopter is loud as fuck. Holy shit. Gotta move the recording device closer.
Don't break anything.
No breaking.
So yeah, they had the fan, the exhaust fan from Karen's auto body, and I knew when those guys were moving in there, I was like, holy shit, that's gonna be an option, you know? So I moved into a studio there, a little 10x10 studio. I had just met Capes.
So the key was like, this is safe ventilation for spray paint.
I can use spray paint in here all year round, yeah. And, you know, and I didn't have much. Certainly didn't have clientele. I didn't have, you know, like none of that. We were just like digging into it and starting to learn to do it. And I was relearning to paint graffiti. I had definitely been an active graffiti writer in Philly and New Jersey as a teenager and early 20-something. Got arrested, gave up all visual art, dropped out of art school, moved to Vermont, started mountain biking, rock climbing, and hanging out, you know, and like doing different things. And music was the one way that I stayed connected. That was like the one thing. That and like the skateboarding scene were the things that I stayed connected to. But mostly, it was like rock climbing and mountain biking and chilling out in the woods and doing Vermont shit, you know. And then just like, I don't know, one day, like I said, it just like hit me. I was like, damn, I need to be painting again. I need to be doing this thing. And it slowly, it went from those little canvases to the piles of canvases to the, you know, and like, just, it was a need to get back out there and to go, you know, make marks bigger than my body and like move around and see artwork on a wall.
That's cool, man. I didn't know that the wall to canvas thing was really like that, like kind of tipping point for you.
It was a big jump off for the visual portion of it, for sure. You know, I mean, I'm glad to say that like I never gave up on the event promotion part of it either, and I never gave up on Third Thursdays. And
you were
all of
always
that,
doing stuff,
you know?
and talking to people that were making art and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
all the time. So
Yeah, trying to keep people connected and doing, and
you're like the best with that shit, honestly. You are, man.
I'm all right at it.
I mean,
You know,
like there's always like an Arts Riot just back here, like what 150 feet away.
yeah.
You're doing sound effects, hosting that shit.
Right, sound effects. That was me and Mertz. That was really Mertz's idea. He was the one who like
Shout out to Mertz.
Yeah, he was the one who had
Mertz music.
the real vision for that. But he certainly knew who to reach out to, right? It was like me
Exactly, yeah.
and Burns and Zach and
Mr.
like Kanga.
Burns.
You know, it was like it's always been the same homies
Yeah.
that are doing the same stuff, you know, and the family remains the same, right? Like, you know,
It's been like 22
why
years.
why are you and Travis still the ones behind the cameras? You know what I mean? Like,
right?
how does that
It's
work out?
crazy.
You know, it's it's been like we've all been doing it for a long time now. You know, we've all been, you know, and everybody evolved and turned into different things, and you know, we like all those, dude. I mean, I think about when Travis put out Piece of Time, like.
That's right.
There are like a half a dozen professional skateboarders now who are like.
That was like
huge
their start.
deals.
That was their jump off. They
were kids. They were
Yeah.
like the kids in the talent skate park section of like the Hale brothers, and you know, and I mean Sean Stem, rest in peace. You know, Cookie, like all
Cookie,
these
Jordan,
yeah,
Marshall.
yeah, all those dudes were like young cats back then, super young. I mean, even Travis was probably 16, 17 when I first met him.
He was like the coach, like he was like the big brother, you know?
Yeah.
Coaching like these little kids. I remember like seeing like Sean Stem when he was like 12 years old, and like walking down Church Street with a skateboard, being like, I just want to skate, and Travis being like, yo, chill, eat your bagel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, like, yeah, let's go. I picked you up from your mom's house to like go take you skating, you know?
Yeah,
like,
100.
like he was like the big brother of skateboarding.
100. And he always has been, man. I mean, like, you gotta wonder whether any of those kids would have ever made it as far as they did, right? Without each other. I'm not saying Travis was the most important link, or that any one of us has ever been the most important
it's about
link.
everyone
but-
finding their spot in the circle, kind
Yeah.
of, and contributing, you know,
Yeah,
all hands
it's-
on deck.
Right. Like, you know, I mean, I 100% have never been the best rapper in Vermont, not even close. You know, it was never about that. I was never trying to promote myself as the rapper who was coming out. I was like, yo, there's a lot of dope rappers around here, and it would be dope if somebody gave them a little more time and energy and helped them blow up.
Hell yeah.
What if I could create a space for that? You know, I've never been the dopest graffiti writer in Vermont. But, like, what if you could put a crew together that would get these guys all moving in the right direction, and, like, everybody would be doing it, you know?
Sometimes that's what keeps people from being intimidated, is like, oh, like, this dude doesn't take himself too seriously, so that means that I can participate.
Right.
You know, like...
Right.
You know, like...
Yeah.
You got, like, that welcoming kind of vibe where it's like, yeah, you just want people to jump on it. And then you do an art show like this, a solo, and people are intimidated, and they're like, oh, man. But I didn't think that I had to be, but I guess I didn't, you know? Like...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you didn't. This show, solo, this was definitely something special, man. I mean, I haven't done a full-blown solo show in almost a decade. It's been a pretty long time. And
At that, let's pause for a minute
Okay.
and watch this quick little edit.
bring it back.
My next goals be real. To the vision of the rules like the rose and grill. Yeah, but that's until you know it's lost. It's just coming as far. The monster voice is doing the white slow. Listen in, I got the hype, so listen in. The cool control, listen with. We pack a punch like a earthquake. That's it. Coming through your book and take that guess I'll be shake. So all you critics out there, take shots. Or give me your mouth and then the blank when I know you. I'm coming for ya. I'm in the blood creeping up, now I'm on ya. It goes to the rhythm and you just don't stop. The rhythm's fine, but we don't need no blocks to go. I'm coming on ya. I'm in the blood creeping up, now I'm on ya. It goes to the rhythm and you just don't stop. The rhythm's fine, but we don't need no blocks to catch rap.
Sound effects.
Yeah, make some noise out there.
The sound of painting.
Make some noise!
That should be like the name of a solo art show is the sound of painting, like audio visual.
Just that. You like sit in a white cubicle and just listen to the sound of
You just,
painting. You imagine what the painting could look like.
Yeah, and you just gather around and like listen and look and say, "Oh, that's very interesting." So, tell us about your stint in St. J. and the kind of cool things that you did out there. And
St. Jiggy. All right, here's the quick and dirty version, right? I had managed the Outdoor Gear Exchange back in the day with a homie named Lou, who had an opportunity to open a business in St. Johnsbury. He had come into some money. He wanted to open a shop, kind of like the OGE, like outdoor gear, climbing, skiing, all of that stuff. And I knew rock climbing really well. I knew the apparel, and I knew all of that really well. And so, and it was like, it seemed like a golden opportunity for my wife and my family and I. We were about to have our second daughter. It was like, man, I could really like make something for myself out here. Like go and open a shop. 2 weeks in, we're doing all the work, we're putting the place together, and we still got this basement space. We got this one little spot that I know we're not really utilizing well, and I'm looking around the town at like this kind of rundown little city, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of cool places to skate here. I'm still into skateboarding, not as hard as I had been when I was a teenager, but I still love to ride a skateboard. I was like, man, there's a lot of like cool little spots, to check out. Like, what if we open a skate shop? How hard would it be? You don't need a lot of money to open a skateboard shop. Like, you buy 20 decks, 12 sets of trucks, a bunch of sets of wheels, and you're like,
go from there.
We got a skateboard shop. Right, we'll go from there. We'll see what happens. So, we had this little basement space. It was like wood paneling. It was so ugly, like horrendous. And so I just gutted it. We ripped it all down to the studs and like made it look industrial. And put some fucking cinder blocks around. And, I built a little ramp right inside the shop. We had one glass case full of trucks and wheels. I had skateboard decks literally on nails hanging on these 2x4s throughout the room. And there was one other wall in the room, and that was like the place where I first tapped back into graffiti a little bit. I was like, there's one wall in here. We should paint this one and, like, do an art piece on it. And through that process, I met this cat, Tommy Rowlett, who was like the bartender at the local watering hole, like the spot. Mm-hmm. Great food. This place called Elements back in the day. And he was the bartender there, and he was into art. And Lou and I would go there every night after we were done busting our asses for 14 hours and like have a beer and have a burger and talk about what we were going to do tomorrow. And, we're like building a game plan. Started building this skate shop. Started talking about what I'm doing, and he's like, oh, I'm really into, like stencil art and stuff like that. Starts showing me some of his shows, like, oh, damn. And he was my immediate connection to the city. Like I met, now I know the people.
He was the ambassador to St. Jack.
Right, like he's got these friends, right? Like he knows a lot of the young people. He knew, like he grew up with Wombaticus Rex 37.
Oh, what a G.
Like he grew up with some of these cats, my homie Squirrel, like who were like a big part of the scene already. They were, Steve Mahone, like cats who were already deeply involved at Burke Mountain in the snowboarding scene. And so, we opened this business, like, now we have this graffiti wall in the shop. We've got the skateboard shop. And honestly, like instantly, the skateboard shop was the most successful piece of the puzzle. We're running this outdoor gear shop upstairs that we have 20 times as much money invested in upstairs. And that's like a slow build. We're like starting to sell rain jackets. And we're starting to see some action. We thought we were like the gateway between the Green Mountains and the White Mountains. And it might work for that vibe. And it did. It kind of did. All in all, we ended up having a first great year. Like, everything seemed right. We were like, man, like, that really worked. And so we, like, doubled down. And we went to the bank and we took out a loan and, like, went for it, me and my homie. And that was the year that, like, the Obama financial collapse happened.
Well, like 2008? Like,
yep.
Oh, man.
So we had like just...
So what, it was 2007-ish when you started it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, and this was like post Second Agenda, like for me, as far, post the original Third Thursdays, I was like leaving Burlington to go to the Northeast Kingdom and start this new thing. And, in that time we did build a skate shop. And in that time we did build an actual, like we actually built a concrete skate park. We found a private donation and like built a concrete park in our backyard, so that kids could skate. And the skateboard business continued to be like the one thing that was carrying us, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
It just
was the
enough.
thing that they didn't have really there. Like, there's probably other places to buy outdoor gear, but...
I mean, there was nowhere else to buy rock climbing gear, and that was definitely a unique thing that we had. But, I mean, dude, like, by the end, it was, like, me and Lou hanging out in there playing ping pong every day. And, like, we would literally, like, offer, if you can beat me in ping pong, you can get a 20% discount. Like, nobody could beat us at ping pong because we were playing constantly. But, but...
They, like, change the sign to Ping Pong Lounge.
It was just, like, anything to get somebody in the door, you know what I mean?
It's tough, dude. Especially in hard times where everybody's, like, mentally, like, just conscious of, like, oh, these are hard times. It's time to, like, strap...
Right. Right. And
tighten up the...
I think a factory closed in St. Johnsbury at that time that, like, 3,000 people lost their jobs. You know what I mean? It was not even like it was like the whole city, the whole town was devastated.
It's like, who's our demographics? No one.
The whole town was devastated. Our demographic always would have kind of been like the people who lived up in the hills, but they just kind of separated themselves from everything and stayed up in the hills.
Yeah, like, we don't go in the city anymore.
The only place I ever saw those people was at Elements, where they were getting a fancy dinner. But so we accomplished what we accomplished. We ended up opening it was like that moment we were like, holy shit, this is failing. What's succeeding? The skateboard business is succeeding. So we expanded it and we brought it upstairs and we gave it its own space, and it continued to, like, we were selling whole snowboard packages to all these kids from the St. Johnsbury Academy who are actually from Spain, who are here for 1 year to go to, and they're happy to spend their parents, because that's a private school and it's, it's a totally different vibe out there. But eventually, like I said, it was doomed. And
so
everything.
Wasn't there like a skate park built around that time out there?
Yeah, we had a concrete park built like right in our back lot. We had a parking lot behind the space. It was like right by the railroad tracks, and like, I mean, it wasn't great. It was basically like a plaza, but there was a place to skate that you were allowed to skate, and there, and like.
Dude, little things like that go a long way, especially to people who are at the right age for it to like make a difference to them, and like, or at the right time where like they didn't go to other towns. They just had to like find stuff to do in their own town. And
it was huge for a lot of those kids, and I definitely I still know
a bunch of the kids who were 16, 17, 18 years old at that time when I was there, who are now doing whatever they're doing in their lives. Most of them aren't skating anymore, but they're living, you know what I mean?
Man.
And we hosted an open mic there in the skate shop. We, you know, like we always brought these vibes around with us, you know what I mean? It was like, no matter what, I was always going to do this stuff. And then I came back to Burlington after all of that. Mary Beth and I, my wife and I, lost our house. We lost the business. We were like deeply in debt. It was a scary moment. You know, I was like, I don't know. I was like, is my wife and my kids, like, is everybody safe? Are we good? Are we good? You know? And then I did like none of this. I was not working in art. I was working in group homes with teenagers because I was like, this is what my heart needs right now. Like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
That's
Huddle
just
up, huddle up, huddle
yeah,
up.
like I got to do something that's like got nothing to do with any of this other noise, and it's like just about being good at all. Like, I don't want to sell anything to anybody. I don't want to think about myself for a while. I don't want, like, none of this is. I'm just gonna like give it nonstop for a couple of years. And so yeah, I was working in group homes, and that's when I linked back up with Travis, and that's when we started hosting these skate camps.
Hell yeah.
You know, through it was like the old.
So did you move back here?
I moved. Yeah, we moved back, and I mean, like, dude, I had my tail between my legs.
Yeah.
I had my tail between my legs, like,
You know, a lot
so.
of people did at that time.
You know, yeah. It was like, and I had just started. This was like also the same time that I had just started painting again. I had like, that was a Northeast Kingdom thing. It happened out there. That moment for me where I was like, holy shit, I gotta do this thing again. Brought it back with me. Now I'm making these little ass paintings, riding around on my bicycle, riding that same bicycle to the group home 5 days a week, and working at this group home with teenagers, and just like really trying in my head to put it back together. Like, what is it that I'm trying to fucking do? What do I want to do with my life? You know, like, not in a one word thing. Like, do I want to do, you know, more just like, where does my heart want to go? What does it want to do? And me and Travis started doing those skate camps. And
Where were they located, and how did you?
we did, I mean, it was like the original Burlington skate park before A-Dog, before that, you know, that like old plywood, all that shit. And we would host a group of kids.
That park was awesome though for what it was.
It was, yeah, it was sick. We would host groups of kids. It was like through I want to say it's called like the Miller Recreation Center. It's part of Hunt Middle School out there. Mm-hmm. There was a summer camp program, and I linked up with it through. Mary Beth was teaching Spanish at the time at Hunt, and they were looking for summer programming, and me and Travis decided we could do this, and we like spent 2 or 3 summers hosting this thing, and talking to these kids about, like, you know, like half the kids in there can barely skate, right? And then there's like the couple of kids who can already drop in and can do a kick flip or do an ollie or like do a few things, and you got like. It's 2 totally different groups of people, essentially. But we were like always talking about, look, somebody's gonna design graphics for these skateboards. Somebody's gonna design T-shirts and whole concepts around how this is gonna happen. Somebody's gonna film this shit and like make movies about this. And like, there are so many places that you could fit in. There are so many parts in this that you could play. There are so many roles to be had. Like, this is how it works. You know, like find a crew.
Yeah.
Find a family. Like,
Yeah.
kick it with this dude who's nasty.
Yeah.
And like, support him.
Yeah.
And don't get mad at him because he's the only one in the room who can do the tricks. But like, support
But watch
it.
him too. And
Yeah.
like, learn. Watch and learn, and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and if you can't learn, if you can't quite pick it up, then there's something else for you to do too. You can keep skating forever, you know? Like, I mean, I'm sure at one point in Travis's life, Travis wanted to be Colin, you know? Like, he was hopeful that he would be Cookie someday, but...
Yeah, man. No, I remember those days where like everybody was getting better kind of all at once, and it's like, oh damn, like, you know, like they're doing like like backside varial heels to grinds and shit. And it's like, you know, it seemed like everybody was rising at the same level where it's like, and then there's just certain kids that just kept going and started doing things switch and like to manual and like just taking it to the next level, adding on like and get compiling. And you know, it's hard to figure out who was going to be the one that like rose up amongst the crowd until
when you really think
until you skate with them a little bit and you realize, well, it's definitely not me.
I mean, when you really think about it, there were like, you know, Kyle, Cookie, Sean, Travis, Colin, Cody.
I remember Kyle and Travis used to skate together all the time back in when they were like 15, 14, and
they were all evolving at the same
Kyle
speed.
Just started doing things a little bit steezier and a little bit bigger and with a little bit more control, and then it started to like you started to see the subtle differences. And I don't know. But
you know, all of them, everybody, like we're all still involved, right? All along, everybody.
They'd all be like, let's go skate. You know?
I'd definitely go skate. There's a board in the other room. Yeah, man. I mean, you know, it's like it's always been this family vibe. It's always been this
after,
team
let's go to the
vibe.
party. Where are the beats at? Like, you know, where
who's DJing tonight? You know.
Yeah, let's go pop our heads into the cipher. And,
Yeah, the ciphers still happen. You know, it all still happens. It's all still going on. It's the same. You know, we've forever been open door, open arms, like. Open vibe, and that's what has kept us like. It's growing because it grows because we like. There's always new people involved. There's always new shit involved. Where you know it's.
I had such a good time at the art show. I brought my girlfriend. She was like, "Your friends are really nice." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, half those people that you made friends with, I didn't even know." Like, all the other half I'm like super tight with, but like that's just the vibe. Like,
that's
just natural.
The vibe.
Like it happens natural.
Exactly. Yeah. You know.
So, tell me about Anthill. So, okay, you came back, started the skate camp.
Camps. That's like
that timing was like what 2008. 2010.
Like falling right into it. The years, I don't remember the years, but we're like the end of the aughts, right? And it's like the art was becoming more important. I was talking about the Magic Hat event earlier. That's where I met Capes. That's where, you know, and like him and I originally just kind of started painting together because we were like these two older dudes who both enjoyed it, you know, and he was still into graff. He was also just getting back into graff, actually. He had also taken, like, he became a ski bum, much like I became, like, a rock climber, you know what I mean? You know, grew up in New Hampshire painting graff and then, like, moved up here and, you know, worked at J Peak all these years and like, he just, like, but, like, we met and it just clicked, you know? We had a lot in common. We both had 2 little girls. We're married. We, like, you know, we have a lot of these other pieces of the puzzle, but we want to do this. I still want to do this. I still want to paint. And so we just started painting together. And I got that studio in Arts Riot.
Like on the DL, like.
Yeah, I mean, like under bridges and shit, you know, like, or like in the studio, or, you know, like as soon as I got that Arts Riot studio space, I definitely like immediately invited him in there. We started kicking it over there. I was like trying to figure out how to do this, like how to work on canvases and how to become a quote unquote fine artist. And he was like, fuck all that shit. We should paint graff. You know, like let's just fucking go back under the bridges and paint graff. And I pretty quickly realized that I was like fully down and that it felt great. You know, it's first couple times I went out, man, like when I printed out there's 100 photographs on the wall over there that are part of the show that like, are like the last 100 pieces of graffiti that I painted goes back to like 2015 or something like that. And the first couple of pieces, I'm like horrified. It's like, oh my God. I painted that next to Hacks and like, you know, and like, cause it was all brand new again. I hadn't painted graffiti in so long. I really kind of like Didn't really know what I was doing at that point. I didn't have a way I wanted to go about it. I wasn't following the formulas. I was just like doing it, you know.
It's hard to conceptualize as an outsider or somebody who hasn't like been schooled. It's like it's hard to like just see like, oh, like look at a burner and imagine how you just go about it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, it is. You know, it's like there's a ton to it, and there's a ton of training, sort of, you know, if you want to think about it that way. And Cape still had it, and I had lost it. And I was just like down for the ride. You know what I mean? I was like down to do it. And I had a bunch of sort of like other skill sets in my head. You know, I had some ideas about how to use color and how to do like different backgroundy type shit. And, you know, I would always want to get mad loose. I'd just be like, yeah, let's just fucking get loose. Let's just like, you know, like just throw color all over the place. He'd be like, yeah, but like we gotta actually execute in a way, you know, like he was like
For the school of tight lines.
Right, he was like the other half of my brain that I required at the time, you know, like the technical side of things where like we're technicians, we're like aerosol technicians, we're doing shit with spray paint specifically for reasons. And so we just started painting together, and we started to realize that there were opportunities that we could utilize to potentially like maybe make a buck, or like at least walk away with like 300 cans worth of spray paint. You know, it's like $300 worth of spray paint. You know, whatever. We were just like trying to find a budget to have the paint to do what we were doing. Started getting some sort of like private commissions, little public mural options, little places we could paint, get a budget, you know. I remember like when we first had a closet that had like 12 crates in it that all had cans in them, we thought we were like gods. You know, it was like a closed closet with like a screen and a lock and like all this paint inside.
It's like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction where it's like, oh.
100, bro, 100. We felt like gods, you know, and but you know, it just kind of slowly kept building, and we started to learn the process of applying for public murals, and we started to get our shit out there enough that we didn't have to apply for public murals because people were hitting us up and being like, yo, I got a food truck, I want you to paint it. Or like, you know, there's a wall in our restaurant, we dig what you're doing, would you be into doing this? And it just kind of, it became that, and it was pretty much initially just me and Capes. And then like we were like, well, all right, we're making some money, maybe we should think about forming like a business of sorts, like giving it a title and forming an LLC, and like maybe that would help us with, you know, whatever. And then, you know, we met Harrison Speak, who like was this young kid who was mad talented and had a sketchbook full of ideas, and we were like, we gotta figure out how to get him in here and like get him incorporated, get him in the studio. You know, Wisdom, Fortune, like always along the way it was like, who else can we get involved, and who else, you know. And that the Anthill, at its core, the idea is just like, we're gonna make things happen for ourselves, for each other, right? And we will accomplish that by sticking together. That's the whole shit. It's like, the more of us that can be involved, and the more support we have, the more like that we're all in it and we're going after it, the better we're gonna be at getting it done.
Yeah,
every
ants.
like 100%.
Like,
every time it's like,
let's take this picnic, motherfucker.
It's like, yo, this dude's ideas and concepts would work perfectly right here. Let's let him lead the way. This dude's in charge on this project, you know? That's always what we wanted, essentially. What we got has admittedly been like a very much like me and Capes continuing to run projects and doing what we're doing, and it, you know, it's like just the nature of the beast, right? Like the Anthill's never been enough for all of us to just be like full-time artists chilling, you know, fucking getting interviewed in a yellow velvet chair. It's always been like barely enough for us to even have the studio this shit is happening in. We've scraped by. We've had some cool ass studios. We used to have like practically a factory out in Hyde Park. We had a huge warehouse space out there. Like, we've had a lot of cool spaces. We've been able to make a lot of cool things happen. but we're always doing it on like the most shoestring, ridiculously no money being made budget ever. And so, you know, like,
it's a grind, man. It's a lot of work too.
yeah, I mean, you know what's dope about it is like every time that one project happens where like we can drop $200 in everybody's pockets or whatever, it's like, you know, again, we all feel like kings, right? Like, I got paid to make art.
Yeah.
You know,
Doing what
I got
getting paid for it. What?
I got paid to do what I love. I got paid to just like be me, you know. And I mean, like, just how much of a better metaphor is it? Like the whole skating, you know, like skateboarding is 100%. If you can become a pro, like if you can just like keep getting paid to do what you do,
It's living the dream.
right? Like you risk a lot for it. You take a lot of chances, you know. Definitely when I finally like took the leap from always having this retail job, always having this safe job, always having this opportunity that I could count on, you know, and was just like, nah, I'm doing it. We're just like, the Anthill is gonna be the thing. And it took a few years for me and Capes to finally just be like, nah, if we don't like pull back from day jobs or straight up quit our day jobs, we're never gonna know if we could pull this shit off. We're gonna always be like almost doing it and pushing lots of projects away and saying I don't have time for that one because we're not really doing it. We're not really committed to it. And so yeah, when we finally just fucking committed to it, it was like, all right, we're leaning in, you know? And
There's always a point in things that you have to give most of your productive time to, where it's a jump off point, it's a decision. It's like, you know, it's like I'm at the cliff and we're gonna do it or not, you know, gotta jump.
yeah, you gotta, you know, and I mean, you know, this show was, you know, it took me fucking 2 weeks. It was just like a full-blown, okay, I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm going to do it exactly the way I'm envisioning it. I'm not doing it half-assed. It's not going to look anything other than exactly what I planned. It's going to take me the better part of 2 weeks to put the whole thing together, and I just got to go for it. The Anthill was the same shit.
It sounds like nothing compared to people who've been trying at things for years, but it's 2 weeks of like no distractions, of focusing on priority number one.
Yeah. I mean, there's 7 years worth of paintings in here.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it wasn't 2 weeks to put the whole thing together. It was 2 weeks to actually assemble it,
right,
and like put it together in a room in the way I wanted it to feel.
To curate it.
You know, and it's taken us 10 years to put together the Anthill in a way that like it really sort of finally makes sense. You know, it's like it's there. We all know what we're doing now. We all know what roles we're playing now.
And people know of you, and like you
100.
You keep like somehow like being part of the things that other people are doing, like in different ways, you know.
I mean, you know, yeah, like it was so.
Like
I mean,
the iHomie release.
Third Thursdays was Anthill.
Yeah.
You know, all of the events that we host down here at the Green Door, that's Anthill. The Above the Radar Festival is Anthill.
Oh, we gotta talk about that, man. So we gotta talk about that before this shit wraps. Okay. So just to, like, tell everybody who doesn't know about what Above the Radar is.
Above the Radar is a 3-day annual graffiti festival, international graffiti festival that we hold in Burlington, Vermont, typically the third weekend in September at the Burlington waterfront, the 1 King Street ferry dock. It's not really a ferry dock anymore, it's more of a marina. But yeah, so there's a 260-foot wall. It's 20 feet or 30 feet tall, 20 feet, 20, I don't remember. It's between 20 and 30 feet tall, but it's 260 feet long. That's the important thing. You're looking at a 260-foot long wall that's covered in artists, typically primarily from throughout the Northeast, Boston, New York, Rhode Island, Maine, New Hampshire,
I got some
Vermont.
photos I can throw up in this here right now. Yeah, it's sick. Yeah, people come from all around.
Yeah.
battle, he is as if possessed by a demon. Much like you, I would expect no less.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's definitely like, it's kind of wild, and that was like a byproduct of the Anthill, right? So we started going to graffiti festivals like that one, Under Pressure up in Montreal, going down to Art Basel in Miami, going and being a part of these other things, and it was just like what if we could do it here? What if we could make that happen here? But where? And Capes and I started like walking around and trying to find spots, like rolling around in our cars trying to find spots. And when we came, like I sort of always knew that wall was there, but it was just so far down there by the lake that you never really even thought about it.
So easy to drive by and just think of it as like some industrial zone or something.
And it had like a half a mural on it, like of the 260 feet, maybe like 100 feet was painted or something. And it was old and it was like all the ferry boats, like the boats that are docked right there that you could turn around and look at. And so we approached the folks who own the place, the LCT, the wonderful people, the P-Corps, and they were super receptive. We basically just asked them for the project that first year. We were just like, I just want the wall. We had dealer.com's money. Mm-hmm. We were like, we just need to make it happen. And we did. Shoestring budget, as always. And then we've just been growing it ever since. It's now, we've been doing it for 5 years. We took the 1 year off in the heart of COVID, but we've done 4 full-blown events. We did one event early, or during the pandemic, whatever you want to fucking call it. We did one event, but it was like locals only, strictly. And the 260-foot wall didn't get painted that year. But yeah, so we're 5 years deep. We're definitely planning on doing it again.
It's sick, man. I would be surprised if it didn't keep growing and just becoming more bigger and more energized, and I would be really surprised.
Yeah, we'd really love to creep it up the hill. That's sort of the end goal.
Just to make it more in town.
That there's always that wall, right? Like that wall is special. That's a thing. But that there are other projects that happen in the city the weeks leading up to the event, however it sort of lines up. There's essentially like a mural festival.
Take over Burlington.
Yeah, like a graffiti festival that happens annually, and that there are multiple walls throughout the city that can happen as well. It's all stuff we're looking at for like the next, that's like the 5-year plan on that one. But it's nice to it's nice to have something in your life you can look at as a 5-year plan.
Yeah, and it's also nice to have something that you can look at in your life as an accomplishment. Like, cheers, dude.
Cheers.
My dude. Scottie, Raymond, Eskae.